I've been working as an accountant for 5 years in both Sydney and Hong Kong before calling it quits and pursuing music therapy. I used to complain my corporate job all the time, but undoubtedly I learned some really valuable lessons along the way. That's why today I want to summarize the 5 key lessons I learned from my corporate jobs. If you're interested in my story, feel free to check out my blog, link in the description box below. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Venus and I'm a final year music therapy student in Sydney. So first thing first, I think corporate job isn't for everyone. As in not everyone is supposed to work in an office environment. It actually took me years to figure this out and eventually let go of the idea that the office job is kind of like the standard of what you do after you graduate from uni. It was probably due to the fact that I was being brought up that way and then that kind of idea had ingrained in my head. But if you're someone who can't sit still or you hate the same kind of routine and environment, office job really isn't for you. You have one life to live. No way, you only die once. That's why, find your happy place. Nonetheless, my 5 years of corporate job experience did teach me some valuable life lessons. The first one is the importance of routine, human connection, and discipline. I used to think of myself as kind of like an artist who freestyle everything. That's why I kind of have a love-hate relationship between routine. On one hand, I need certain routines in my life, but on the other hand, I really hate boring patterns. The truth is, human beings are all creatures of habits. That's why no matter how much you hate a mundane lifestyle, to a certain extent, you still have routines in place in your life. Why do you brush your teeth first thing in the morning? Why do you scroll your phone before you get to sleep? These are all routines and habits. And over time, I kind of recognized that I won't hate corporate job that much if I only worked part-time. Because I crave for a sweet spot between flexibility and routine. Without routines, we get lost in life easily, without the anchors and the set paths in our lives. In times of chaos, just like the pandemic, routines are proven to be essential since they are something that we can control. You would have noticed the difference in your energy level and mood when you started working from home comparing to when you were in the office. Do you remember what happened the first month in your lockdown when you were working from home? At first, you might be like, oh, this is a bliss. I do not need to get up at 6 and I can just get up at 8:59 and turn on my laptop and just be online. It was also quite liberating to get out of the boring routine. You don't need to be stuck in the traffic and stuff like that. But soon you may start feeling confused and frustrated about not having your 10 a.m. coffee break or cigarette break with your colleagues. Similarly, you might feel like you are missing something when you can't go to your usual 8 a.m. group fitness class. Everything is about routines and human connection. I never liked small talks myself, but I found myself missing that kind of thing during the lockdown. That's why my corporate job really taught me the importance of discipline and routines. I learned about when I'm the most productive. I learned about eating the frog. I learned about prioritizing my tasks and saying no to things that don't move the needle. More importantly, I learned about how being in a few sets of routines made me a more disciplined person. When you have a corporate job, your boundary is pretty clear. You have enough self-control to not slack off too much during the office hours so that you'll be able to finish your tasks before you go home. This is discipline and impulse control. When you didn't have that routine and self-awareness, your life will fall apart. Working from home blurred that boundary. That's why it's important to practice self-control and have that kind of routine in place. And it is your responsibility to maintain that discipline and get things done. The next lesson I learned from my corporate job is the importance of a supportive environment. Believe it or not, many people choose to stay in their roles just because of their teammates or colleagues. No matter how annoying the job nature, the clients or the bosses are, they still somehow choose to stay because of supportive colleagues. I personally don't think that's sustainable, but undeniably, it works for many people, around me at least. A supportive environment fosters growth and happiness, and a toxic one ignites gossips, unhealthy competition, and negative vibes. It is not just about the job nature, the office environment, and the team structure, but also the network. And yes, people form part of that environment. Environment not only affects one's mood, but also productivity and behaviors. If you set your environment right, you set yourself up for success. Think about how you work from home. And most people learn the hard way during the pandemic. Just like having a set routine, when you're forced to leave that supportive environment, how do you maintain your quality of work? Next, on finance. A 9-to-5 work life means getting a fixed salary, not a stable one. It is normal to feel insecure to quit your job. We are kind of wired to think that starting a business or freelancing is riskier than being employed, but again, the pandemic proved otherwise. Don't confuse a fixed paycheck with stability. Being employed is actually as risky, if not riskier, than choosing the alternatives, because you are not in control. However, I'm not going to discount the fact that being employed does come with some perks like company benefits, health insurance, 401k, and paid leaves. And you don't really need to think about where your next client comes from. It is not just a lifestyle that I would like to subscribe to in the future. What I learned from my corporate life is that I don't want a fixed paycheck. I don't want to hand my future to someone else. And also, life is too short to trade time for money. Next lesson, never stop learning. For the first few years after uni, you are still learning heaps. You might be studying towards a specific qualification just like I did with my CPA, but you might also be learning on your job. Whatever you are doing, never stop learning and never stop being curious. You might have seen people who are more senior than you who might be in their managerial roles, and don't you sometimes wonder how they actually get to that role? They slack off all the time, they are like managing people by just signing off documents and stuff, and they obviously lose touch of what's really going on at the front line. It is easy to get caught in that path when you get older, when you are more experienced, when you know enough about what's going on that you can be on autopilot. You just stop learning new skills, you get obsolete. I think that's a shame. The company hierarchy might be protecting your job, but deep down you know you are only operating at minimum level. One of the lessons I picked up from my corporate job is that I will always be learning and upgrading my skill sets to keep my mind sharp all the times. And the last lesson is to make a change, not a complaint. This goes 3 ways. The first one is to leverage your voice and your power. Try to think about what you are in control of. Firstly, I always appreciate honesty and open policy. In workplaces, everyone should be able to express their views freely. If someone doesn't like something about the current situation, he or she should communicate with others and find a common ground. Well, that sounds very ideal, I know that, but I do believe that everyone can contribute their part depending on how much power they have, and there is actually something called the collective power that when people gather together, they can make a change. And it is all about a change in perspective. Instead of complaining like how the whole world works against them, think about what is within your control. Provide solutions, not negative vibes. And if there is really nothing within your control, remember there is still something. You always have the choice. And the next part is to change your mindset, perspective, and attitude. Complaint is very much a type of reaction, but what you want to do is to pause, think, and respond instead. Sometimes the situation might not seem favorable. Try seeing it from a different angle. What positive events can you make out of it? And how can you benefit from it still? I've worked in 3 corporate jobs before, and there were some more than others have such a negative environment. It's just like everyone was not happy, they're complaining, they're faking like a different personality, and it just isn't a good vibe. And it occurred to me that many people prefer staying in certain misery than to jump into the unknown. And everyone has their own threshold of tolerance. When things get really out of hand, for example, when the pressure starts to affect your physical and mental health, you know that's a sign that you should leave. And the third thing is, quitting is sometimes for winners. I quit 3 different jobs in the past 5 years. I vividly remember that feeling when I could finally ignore the 100 unread emails, the 20 flagged tasks, and the messy cabinet. If any of my ex-colleagues are watching this, I hope I didn't make your life difficult. It was indeed really liberating to say, I'm getting out of here. The decision is not an easy one, but when you had a clear goal and you knew that your current environment and situation were not serving you that purpose, it's time to change. We all hear a lot about the hang in there, don't give up mantra, but sometimes quitting is for winners. This is a concept from Stephen Bartlett. Quit things that don't serve your future goals. Quit the bad habits, the toxic environments, and the negative energy. Ignore what everyone else is doing. Just do you. It is your future and your life. So yeah, I do think it's all about perspectives. You can hate your life, complain about your current situation, or you can look at it from a different angles and make the most out of it. I learned a lot from my corporate jobs, and I'm still grateful for the experience. Lessons are repeated until learned. That's why it took me 3 corporate jobs to finally know that this is not something for me in the long run. So take a good look at your current situation. Are you denying, resisting, pushing through, or actually learning and enjoying? What can you leverage in this circumstance? And how can you apply this piece of knowledge in achieving your goals? And so this is a quick wrap up of my 5 years of corporate job experience. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you're feeling confused, stuck, or not sure about the next step in your life, this is your chance to change. Join my 5-day email course to get more clarity and direction to set the tone for your next 6 months. Link in the description box below, completely free. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.